In particular, the last 2 years have been very difficult. But yet, when compared to many other countries, Sri Lankan is able to do better than most others. Almost every type of activity in my government, I selected people with professional knowledge and ability to implement programs and plans in order to achieve the objectives of our nation. We also respected professionals who put the country's interest before their own. It takes many types of knowledge, skills and talents to operate a results-oriented administration.
The President was addressing a function in Colombo. It was organized in connection with the induction of Professor A.D.V. Des Indraratna as the new chairman of the Sri Lanka Professionals Association. Parliamentarians, foreign diplomats and representatives as well as state officials were among the distinguished gathering present on the occasion.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa hosts a Yuletide evening. The Christmas celebration was held last evening at the temple trees.
Archbishop of Colombo, Most Reverend Dr. Malcolm Ranjit, Archbishop Emeritus of Colombo, Most Reverend Dr. Oswald Gomez, participated as guests of honor.
Regis has given instruction to the relevant authorities.
Members of the Catholic clergy, parliamentarians, diplomats and artists were among the large gathering present.
The United Nations has called for an explanation from the government with regard to a statement made by the former army commander in an interview to the Sunday Leader newspaper.
The Sunday Leader report said that the former army commander had alleged that several LTT leaders who were prepared to surrender during the 2 final days of the humanitarian operation had been killed. In a letter addressed to Mrs. Shenuka Seneviratna, the permanent representative of Sri Lanka to the UN office in Geneva, UN Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial summary or arbitrary executions, Philip Alston, has made a request for explanation from the government. National newspapers carried reports in this respect, while the government's official website said that it is making a careful study of the letter prior to making a formal response.
The UN has accepted some comments by the former army commander on certain incidents that are said to have happened during the final stages of the humanitarian operations. Minister Professor G.L. Piri said it is now questioning the government and seeking explanations. Making clarifications on the situation, the minister said,
Philip Alston in his letter categorically states that he needs to take action on the basis of the statement made by General Sarath Fonseca to the media. He says this is a serious statement, we can't ignore it. A very serious situation has arisen because of this for all members of the armed forces of Sri Lanka. So the resulting situation is that any member of Sri Lanka's armed forces who travels abroad today is very much in risk of being taken into custody on the basis of a categorical statement made by no less a person than the commander of the Sri Lankan army at the relevant time. Here is no less a person than the commander of the Sri Lanka army at that time giving direct evidence that supports these allegations. The people who want to harm our country, the people who want to destroy our country economically want nothing better than the statement which has now been put into their hands by General Sarath Fonseca. And you can take it that they will use this statement with a vengeance. In order to win an election, nobody in Sri Lanka's history, elections have been held from time to time in this country, but no candidate at a Sri Lankan election has surrendered the vital interests of his country in this way. This is a treacherous act without parallel in the annals of our history.
Many scholars have also expressed their disillusion over the former army commander's betrayal of Sri Lanka. Expressing his views, senior attorney S.L. Gunasekara said,
the consequences of his stupid action, of his stupid and foul action are becoming apparent when the United Nations have called for explanations from us based on his statement. Based on his statement. I don't know whether Fonseca has a grudge against, has some personal conflict with Gotabaya Rajapaksa or with Savendra Silva. Maybe, may not be. Assume that he has. But assuming he has some kind of personal grievance with either or both of them, he has no right whatever to betray the country, the people and the army because of any personal conflict.
I consider that Mr. Sarath Fonseca's behavior and charges, baseless accusations against the government and government officials are against the Sri Lankan law. Before the international law, which we agree upon voluntarily, we are abide by the Sri Lankan law of the state. As a responsible former army officer, he should have kept whatever happened during the last stages of the war as state secrets. In addition, I also believe that the situation has created for certain international sections to create chaos, instability, and going back to the war situation as he has done. Now that is, I would consider in a way a treason.
The importance of this request is, it is a very serious request because this is the commencing step where the UN can talk about imposing sanctions on Sri Lanka. There can be economic sanctions, there can be travel sanctions, and individually, as a country, Sri Lanka will get adversely affected. And individually, all the war heroes, especially the 58 Division, the members of the 58 Division will have a serious impact because they can be arrested at any moment whenever they travel out of Sri Lanka. That's a very, very serious impact. And I don't think that situation has arisen in the 2,500-year-old history of our country.
In more local news, the term of office of local bodies has been extended. The terms of office of the local government institutions were due to end in the months from April to June. Minister Janaka Bandara Thennakoon decided to extend the terms of office up to 31st of March 2011. He has taken this step according to the Municipal Council, Urban Council and Pradeshya Sabha Ordinance. In addition, the minister is also vested with the power of holding elections to the local bodies even before the 31st of March 2011. The UNP-sponsored motion brought forward at the Western Provincial Council against Provincial Council Minister and Jatika Helurmaya member Udaya Gammanpila has been defeated. The minister said it was defeated by a majority of 42 votes during the council session. He said altogether there are 104 members in the council and with the appointment of the chairman there are 103 members. The opposition has 36 members. 25 voted in favour of the motion. 5 UNP members were not present. Srinath Pereira abstained from voting. The JVP and the Muslim Congress, constituent parties of the United National Alliance, were not present when the vote was taken up. Another ally, the United Democratic Alliance, voted with the government, defeating the resolution. Mr. Gammanpila said he considered this as the first result in the presidential polls. 3 Melbourne men today indicated they would plead guilty to charges of providing assets to Sri Lanka's Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. Lawyers for the men told the Victorian Supreme Court their clients would plead guilty once the prosecution filed a new list of criminal counts. Aruran Vinayagamurthy, Sivaraja Yadavan and Arumugam Rajivan were not in court, have already had terror-related charges dropped. They were arrested in 2007 and are on bail. Nick Pappas, SC, said today if no evidence was led by the prosecution on a third charge, Vinayagamurthy would plead guilty to 2 charges of making assets available to a proscribed entity. Lawyers for Yadavan and Rajivan indicated they would each plead guilty to 1 similar charge involving money. Prosecutor Mark Dean, SC, told Justice Paul Coghlan the case looked able to be resolved. Coming up next is Prime World.